these videos, I did not expect to be so like back to back. But I'm gonna just do it anyways because I feel myself transitioning into this next phase. So why not do it? This usually is the luteal phase for me. I'm about ready to hit it. I can feel it. Certain things I'm eating. Usually there's a dead giveaway. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about the final phase before you go back into the cycle again, back into the menstrual phase, is the luteal phase. Right now I'm at the end. I'm getting towards the end of my ovulatory phase. I'm actually ovulating right now. But I'm at the end. So I'm not like, I'm transitioning. I'm ready to head off into luteal. So I'm just going to talk about it. Just to start the video off. So the luteal phase is what they call the autumn phase. This is the autumn phase of your cycle where you really start to struggle. I know with me, I have PMDD. My luteal phase lasts about 2 weeks. Mine can last for about 14 to 16 days. It is the longest part of a woman's cycle. It is the longest part out of all 4 seasons, out of all 4 phases. It is the longest one. It is the most obnoxious one. It is the most annoying one. As soon as I started making this video, the sun decided to go behind the clouds. It is the hardest one for women to get through. And it's a lot of work. Let's just say that. It's a lot of inner work. So during the autumn phase, as they call it, what do we usually do during autumn? We start to clean up. We start to usually, things are starting to kind of change. Things are starting to shift. We start to become more indoors because it is starting to get kind of chilly out. We start to get more into more heartier dishes. We start going into, like we start eating turkey and yams and more thicker, more heavier food. Squash, like, pumpkin, things like that. A lot of hearty, hefty, high calorie foods, things that are going to get you full and keep you full. The reason why they call this the autumn phase is because during your luteal phase, your blood sugar and you in general are just usually very hungry all the time. The reason why is for this is because your body is preparing itself for the menstrual cycle. Obviously, when you're in your menstrual cycle, you lose a lot of blood, you lose a lot of water, you lose a lot of nutrients and proteins and iron and everything else. So this is your body's way of preparing itself. It's kind of cool how it does that. This is your body preparing itself for the menstrual cycle. So during these 2 weeks, usually what I do is I try to concentrate as much as I possibly can, be aware of what I'm eating. Now, it's the old, everybody knows it. During your PMS phase, the luteal phase, you usually retain more water. You start to get more puffier. You'll start to get, puffy face, puffy bloating. I notice that, and a lot of women do, they start to crave chocolate and salty stuff. Me, it's usually salty stuff. I love potato chips. I love, love, love potato chips during this cycle. I cannot get enough of them. I had my husband go out and buy a whole bag of Ruffles potato chips the other day, and I didn't catch myself until it was probably like a quarter of a bag. And I was like, okay, I know what's going on. I can't do this. The reason why you want to watch your salt intake when you're during the cycle is because what can happen is if you eat too much salt during your luteal phase, you can develop blood clots. It can cause your period to be heavier. You can actually get more cramps and things like that. And your period will just kind of be crappy. It won't be as healthy as it should be if you're not eating the right things. So usually the best things to eat during this cycle are the autumn stuff. Like, what do we eat during autumn? So like I said, turkey, yams, hearty vegetables, root vegetables like squash, even things like cooked carrots, anything that has high in protein, a lot of iron. Salmon is a good thing to eat around this time. During the ovulatory phase and the luteal phase, salmon is mentioned both times. And the reason why it's mentioned both times is because it is very good for you. It's high in iron and protein. It is packed with protein. We're starting to lean towards the more heavier foods. And they actually say it's just comfort food. Anything that makes you feel good, eat it. But you still want to watch what you're eating. If I drink, that's another thing. I'm really into caffeine during this time of my cycle. I really like to drink a lot of Pepsi. I drink a lot of coffee. And I know it's not good for me. It isn't, because of the fact that it can reverse everything. It gives you high anxiety, irritability, crankiness. It'll give you fatigue and everything else in between. It's not good for you. High sugar content is not good for you during the luteal phase. You want to really, really watch your water intake. You want to make sure that you're drinking a lot of water during this time. I try to drink as much water as I possibly can. I actually have a Walmart order coming today at 4 o'clock. I put in a thing of bottled water because I'm in that phase of my cycle right now, so I know I need to really start uptaking my water. Yeah, I'm one of those girls. I don't like drinking out of like cups and crap with water. It's like, ugh. I'm weird like that. That's the way I am. The other thing is I make sure that I am watching, like, I try not to be on my phone too much, because you can get kind of lazy during this cycle. You can get very, what's the word? Kind of reclusive. I notice with me, and I also have PMDD, so I get really depressed. I start to get really kind of like, your mood will just drop during the luteal phase. You just don't feel, kind of like the falling leaves off the tree during the autumn phase, your mood will just drop. Things will just start to fall off. That ambition, that motivation, that power that you had during the follicular phase, it's gone. You don't have any of that energy anymore. Your body is just starting to kind of calm down. During the first half of my luteal phase, I sometimes am still kind of high energy. I still will have a little bit of that energy left over. But then once I start to enter into the second part of my luteal phase, that's when I'm just like, I have nothing in me. Everything is a struggle. Every small chore is a problem. Everything is an issue. I get extremely overwhelmed really easily. Today has been a really hard day for me. I did not sleep well last night at all. Needless to say, my house is a mess right now. And if this was the follicular phase right now, this house would be done. I would be on it. Not today. Today, it's just, I'm very, very withdrawn, high anxiety today, very low mood, and just wanting to just be by myself. I really don't want to be around people right now. Unfortunately, my kids had a half a day of school today. Today was their first day back at school, and they went to school for 3.5 hours. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And they've been home for 3.5 months. And then they don't have school buses where we live. They no longer ride a school bus. So now I have to walk them to school and walk to go pick them back up every single day. And it's just not the best time for me to be doing these things right now. I'm just like not in the mood. My kids were like 15 minutes late for school today because like I said, I didn't sleep very well last night, so I woke up late. It's just not a good time right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, so like the physical symptoms that you will have. Your skin will get oily. You're prone to acne, zits. Your skin will just be really crappy. I know during this time, my skin just starts to look very muddled. It starts to lose that color that it had during the follicular phase. And the ovulatory phase, it just starts to get really like drained, really clogged up. I do a lot of face masks and I focus on my face during this time a lot. I get bloated. I tend to gain weight. I start to get weight during my midsection. I start to just bloat out. That's water retention. Towards the end of the luteal phase, usually about 7 days before my period's gonna start, I will get crampy. I start to have ghost cramps, and they'll just be like, they're there. They're just telling me like, hey, sis, your period's about to start in a couple of days. And then sometimes I spot before, and then all of a sudden my period will start. Don't have a lot of motivation during this cycle. I don't. Not during this part of my cycle. I don't have that get-go that I had like 3 cycles ago, or 3 phases ago. I'm up here, and that's a really hard thing for women during this phase, and I hear it a lot. you're trapped up here. You get really, I just said this in my last video. I just said this during my ovulatory video. You really get locked up here. I have a really hard time trying to find the positivity and this too shall pass kind of thing. My mind won't let me. My mind's just like, oh, it's so depressing today and this is the way it's going to be forever. It's like, no, this is just a bad day. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad day for tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. My OCD part of myself that's like, get go, let's do this, wants to do things and wants to get it done. But my PMDD and the cycle that I'm in, it's just, I have to really push my way through a lot of it. And it's just extremely excruciatingly hard. And I tend to develop depression during this phase, which is very common for women during this phase in their cycle, and which a lot of women end up getting put on SSRIs like Prozac, Lexapro, things like that, to help them get through this part of their cycle. I don't take SSRIs. I did I want to say about 2 years ago. I tried them, and then I ended up taking them about, I want to say it was April this year. It was either April or May of this year. I tried taking SSRIs again. Big time fail, and I was like, okay, these are just not for me. They're just not good for me. I don't like them. I don't like the way they make me feel, and they do help me with optimism and, you know, motivation, things like that. They kind of like cut the fogginess out. They really do, you know, try to remove a lot of the cloudiness and the, you know, the low mood. You don't really have that. That'll be my still for this video. But the bad side of it is, which I did a whole entire video on this, it just gave me a lot more anxiety, which doesn't make any sense, but it gave me more, and it made me it almost felt like I was on like some sort of like drug, I was, but it made me feel like I was on cocaine. Like I've never taken cocaine in my life, but I can imagine this is what it felt like. Very, very hyper. I remember I was walking through my house one day. We were all sitting down to have dinner. It was a really good day. At least in my world, it was. I was watching an action movie, you know, we were hanging out. And I just remember saying to myself, like, I feel really good right now. Like, I was just like, I feel really optimistic. You know, I feel really good. Like, nothing can take me down. I felt really good. And all of a sudden, I kind of started to feel a little bit too good. Like, it was really high all of a sudden. And I was like, whoa. And it was just like, and it turned into like an anxious feeling. And then I was like, wait a minute. It started to kind of have like reverse effects. Now, the thing is with Prozac, there is a point when you're taking it that it will reach a peak. And then it'll just kind of bottom out, and you'll be completely normal, and it'll just, you know, mellow out with your system. I think personally that I was put on too high of a dose. I think my doctor needs to drop the dose a little bit. But the bottom line is I just did not like that feeling. So as soon as that feeling came, it scared the living daylights out of me, and I was just like, okay, I'm done. And I just like stopped taking it. You can do that with Prozac. You can't do that with Lexapro. So that's a whole entire different subject. Anyways, a lot of women get put on SSRIs during this point in their cycle, and it's a very hard part of the cycle. It is very hard to get through. But there are things that you can do to help you. Walking is such a great thing for a woman to do when you feel like this. For me right now, I can't because, I could, but I'd probably turn into a piece of bacon. It is like 102 in Michigan right now. It is extremely hot. All that hot air that was down south like moved up to Michigan. And yeah, it's like Hades outside. So I'm not going out there, but I had to walk my kids to school this morning. I thought I was going to die on the way back home. It was horrible. But when you have nice weather, it's really good to walk. Even if you have like a treadmill in your house or in your basement, you know, just to do a couple of miles on it. Being creative, like painting. They have like those little color books that you can do. Like they have tons of like coloring books for adults, things like that. I know you don't always feel like it and you're just kind of like, whatever, I'm not going anywhere. But it is good to remove yourself from your house. Like just go out. Do anything. You don't have to be something extravagant. Like you don't have to go out and like go to a glitzy party. What I usually do is I'll take my kids to a park because they're having fun and they get to go out and they get to do something and leave me alone. And I get to, be outside as well, and I get to get a little fresh air, and I get to, I'm moving myself, so I'm not just sitting in the house and doing absolutely nothing. I tried doing that yesterday. Again, it was like 101 degrees outside in Michigan. I did not know it because I had not left the house that day. And we walked out the front door, and we got like halfway down the sidewalk, and I realized I screwed up, and it was already too late, and I was like, oh my God. It was just so bad, so hot, that we ended up just turning around and going back home. I couldn't do it. But social media is another thing that I try to stay off of, like I said. I try to not sit on my phone all day and scroll, because, again, you're locked up in your head. So anything that you see, you're going to, dwell on it. So if somebody is on vacation or something, and they got a brand new car, or they got a brand new house or something, you start looking around your house and you're like, I'm never going to have that. And then here we go. You have very low cortisol during this part of your cycle. So if anything's bothering you, your cortisol is really high during this part of your cycle. So if anything's bothering you, cortisol is going to make it 50,000 times worse. And it's going to, your brain is just going to explode. It sucks. Physical pains, breast tenderness. Sometimes you will have achy muscles. Sometimes they call it the period flu. You can actually feel sick. You can actually feel like you're getting sick. You're not getting sick. It's PMS. You can have nausea, migraines, headaches, actually throwing up, dizzy spells, lightheadedness, heart palpitations. And that's another thing, is try to stay away from the caffeine, because you are super duper sensitive during this time in your cycle to caffeine. I should not be drinking that today. I can't wait till Walmart gets here so I can start drinking my water. Alcohol. I had to learn that the hard way. Alcohol during this part in your cycle is not good for you. It will do the exact reverse of what you wanted to do. Like with me, I think drinking a glass of wine is going to make me relax and I'm going to feel great. No. I get super duper crabby. I get really mad. And I make a lot of dumb decisions. I do a lot of stupid crap. And then I get really bad anxiety the next day. And I just feel like crap. I feel totally washed out the next day. So alcohol and caffeine during this part of your cycle is usually not a good thing. I try not to drink so much caffeine. I will usually just drink a cup of coffee in the morning. This morning I drank about a cup and a half of coffee in the morning. Actually, I didn't drink even a full cup. I only drank a half cup. But it's good to lower that. Tea is good to drink during this cycle. If you can have indigestion, you can have stomach issues during this part of your cycle. Ginger tea is really good. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. The luteal phase is the hardest. It is the longest, and it is grueling. So you're not losing your mind. You're not going insane. You're not in uber bitch. You're not. The whole world isn't against you. It's literally just your period coming, and it's your cycle moving over. So that is it. That is the end of this series. I am completely done because I already did the menstrual cycle. And I hope if anybody watches the videos, I hope that they learn something from them. And if you have any questions, you can always comment below the videos, and I will try to answer your questions to the best of my ability. And thank you for watching.